what's up everyone, it's Emily and welcome back to my channel. So it is now July and I want to go through all of the books that I read back in June. So since last month was Pride Month, I wanted all of my books to have some sort of queer LGBTQ element to them, and that is what happened. So I'm really happy about that. I thought I would just give a little overview and talk about it briefly. I did mention all of these in my mid-year check-in, which you can find up above and probably down below on my channel. So if you're interested in everything that I've read so far this year, you can check that out down below. These will all be kind of out of order because I'm just gonna go through them in this little stack that I have here instead of reading order. So the first book I want to talk about is Bitter, and this is actually like the first book that I read this month, and this book was so cool. It is a prequel to Pet by the same author, which I did not know at the time. I thought it was just a separate novel within the same world, but it's actually a prequel about the main character's mother in this one, and it talks a lot about protests, brutality, revolution, and resistance against oppressors in both a violent way and in a non-violent way. And I just really love the way the author explores the complexity of this issue, how art is integral to change and the people that bring it. So I just thought this was really well done. It was so short. It is a bit dark and definitely heavy trigger warnings for people who are not good with violence and racism, amongst other things. So definitely just be on the lookout for that. One of the main side characters is a lesbian, and I think maybe I'm forgetting something else, but I know there are lots of queer people in this. And then in Pet, which is the, I guess, sequel to the prequel, but it was the first book out, the main character in that is Jam, and she's a transgender woman. So definitely check this one out if you're into that, but just be aware this is pretty dark and handles some very heavy topics. Next is Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda. This is another shorter book that I got through fairly quickly, and I'm so glad I read it. This is like a staple for queer literature. I want to say it's like the first like gay book I'd ever heard of when I was growing up, and I thought that it handled some really interesting issues in terms of being closeted and what it's like to be outed by other people, and just how harmful that really is. We get some really good banter between the protagonist and his love interest, who we don't know until the end of the book because they are still in the closet, versus Simon was kind of pushed out of the closet. And I think the way that Becky Albertalli is able to bring out like the weird geekiness of theater kids and like the awkwardness of being in high school, I think like she did a really good job writing that. It's such a lighthearted book that takes on some really difficult topics of being gay, and I think it's just so well executed, and it was overall a very upbeat novel that handled some deeper issues, and definitely one I would recommend to anyone who's interested in dipping their toes into LGBT books. Next is Ace of Spades, and this book was mind-blowingly incredible. It's a thriller, and it is dark. It is a dark thriller novel. It handles, again, some really tough topics that I personally think are handled brilliantly, and I really couldn't put this one down. This is one of the longer books that I read this month. One of the reviews on the inside of the cover is When Gossip Girl Meets Get Out. So this definitely handles some pretty intense subjects, including homophobia, but as well as systematic racial injustice and how ingrained in society some of these things are, but also just how cruel it is. One of the things I really loved about it was how different the author was able to make the voices of our two main characters. I really felt like when I was switching off between points of view, I really felt like I was listening to two different people's heads, and I really liked the dichotomy of their personalities. Like they were both just very different, and they went about things very differently. And it was really cool to kind of see both perspectives of that, and how being in those two very different, unique situations also affected how they handled everything that was going on around and to them. Similar to Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda, I really thought that the author did a great job capturing this kind of rich kid academia atmosphere and a lot of the book takes place within that atmosphere, and I really think that they did a great job kind of encompassing that vibe of the setting and really making these two students feel like outcasts. If you haven't read the book, we follow two high schoolers who are the only two Black kids in their school, and within the first couple weeks or days of the semester, there are these anonymous text messages being sent out targeting both of them. And at first people are like, oh, they're just out to get these people because this one is gay and you know, she is rich and has everything and blah blah blah. But it turns out to be a lot deeper than that and a lot more hateful. And when I tell you, my jaw dropped when I was reading this, and part of me is like, I should have expected it because we're handling some heavy topics here, and like, I should have expected that, yeah, this would go this far. I just think it was really expertly done, and I think it makes you as the reader uncomfortable, and it's supposed to. And that is exactly what was done with this book. And I just thought it was really well done, and if you're looking for something that's powerful and moving and thrilling at the same time, definitely pick this one up, but be aware of some heavy topics. In a little bit more of a lighthearted note from that one, I also have read She Gets the Girl. This was definitely one of my favorites of the month. It kind of just felt like a warm summer sunset. If you're just looking for a really cute sapphic romance with good vibes, but also deep emotional storytelling, this is a good one for you. It kind of is on that teeter-totter between YA and new adult. Our main characters are freshmen in college, so they're 18, and you know, they're still teenagers, but we are handling a little bit more heavier topics, but also keeping that kind of pace of YA, and it's a little bit simpler than I would say a lot of new adult is. Basically, we have sweet Molly, who I absolutely adore. She has some anxiety, and she has the biggest crush on a girl at college, and she's having a hard time expressing her feelings to her, and Alex is kind of the opposite. She's very extroverted. You know, she's kind of a baddie. She is able to buy alcohol for these other underage girls just because she can, and she has I think she has a fake ID, but like, she kind of has that attitude, like she's not afraid to get in trouble. And Alex kind of takes it upon herself to help Molly get this girl, Cora, that she has a crush on, to prove to her girlfriend that she isn't a self-absorbed narcissist. But on top of that, Alex is also dealing with some pretty heavy issues with her mom and alcoholism, and Molly's dealing with the fact that her mom has been her best friend her whole life, but now she needs to kind of cut away those ties that her mom has to her so that she can be a fully formed adult. So this book was just really cute. It was really well done. It kind of gives me those same lighthearted, easygoing queer vibes that Heartstopper gives, because overall, it's a very joyous, fun experience reading it, but then every once in a while, we kind of dig into those harder topics. So definitely a great read. I read it super fast, and it was just really adorable. Next is The Long Way to the Small Angry Planet. I wanted queers in space, and I got queers in space. This book very much is about found family, kind of ventures away from normal sci-fi in terms of a lot of sci-fi is very kind of plot-based. There's a lot of action happening. There's a lot of blaster fights or space fights and all of those things. And this book kind of takes a step away from that and really gives us a good look at just the characters. And I think what the author is doing is trying to, through the lens of different cultures with these alien species that are also on this ship, we are taking a look at humanity and what it means to live in a society. I'm having a really hard time explaining this because I feel like it's kind of a complicated subject, but like 3 or 4 of the characters on the Wayfarer, which is our ship, and basically what they do is they punch holes in the space to allow for easier travel. So I think like they're creating wormholes so that ships can pass quicker through different planet systems. That's like kind of my understanding. They don't get like super into it because it's kind of complicated, and that's not really the most important part about this book. But we have a crew of like, I don't know, a bunch of people, and 3 or 4 of them are humans, and then the rest are different alien species, including Lovey, who is the ship's AI. So we get a really good look at what different relationships look like to different people, but then also that through the lens of different planetary species. And I just thought it was really well done, and it really takes a look on, how to respect other people's culture, and when things are weird to us, like why that's so normal to other people, how we should respect that, and because it's not hurting other people. And if it's not hurting other people, then there really isn't something wrong with it. However, if something is hurting someone else, how that is ethically not right at the same time. It comments a lot on humanity and relationships and different kinds of relationships. It was just a really good read. It's a little bit slower paced for me, which was kind of a bummer because I found it hard to get through at times. Like, there were pages where there was an entire paragraph of text, and that to my brain is just like, I can't. It looks like a brick to me. But overall, I really, really loved this book, and I loved the characters, and found family-wise, these characters are all so different, so unique, and so lovable. I loved every single character in this book in their own way. But it is a lot more character than plot-based, so if you like sci-fi books that are really plot-based, this probably won't be the one for you. However, if you love character-based stories, you want to try something a little bit different, I definitely recommend this one. Another book I read this month was The Iron Widow, and this was a great, great, great book. I don't know exactly what I was expecting coming into this. I knew that our main character was revenge hungry. I know that she was angry. I knew that this book was about women's wrongs and supporting them, and it was amazing. I really like that the author took lots of inspiration from ancient China and kind of flipped it into this futuristic universe. And it takes a lot from the values and traditions of it and then kind of puts it into this world that is both familiar and not. Our main character is disabled because her feet were bound when she was young, so now she has chronic pain and can't really walk. They are in the midst of this war, and the way that they fight it is in these things called chrysalises, which is like giant robots, I suppose, that you and another partner go into, and then the stronger your chi is, or like your spirit energy is, the stronger you are, and you need this is so complicated. When a woman is in the chrysalis with a man, they are going to die, is basically how it works. And her sister was murdered by one of the most famous warriors in the country, and she decides to go after him to kill him, like avenge her sister. But along the way, many other things happen. We explore like a polyamorous relationship between the main character. I thought the writing style was very YA, which was totally fine with me. I really don't mind that. It makes it easier for me to digest as a reader. But I think like some people on Goodreads and everything did not really like the writing style of this. For me, I thought it made it better because with such a futuristic sci-fi base in the way a lot of this world works, I thought that it was kind of necessary to have that YA language for me to understand it. So I really didn't mind it. There was definitely lots of anger and revenge going on here, but I thought at the end of the day, the main character I understood where she was coming from, and I wanted to root for her. So it wasn't like she was this evil woman who was just out to kill everyone. Like, she had her reasons, and she felt justified in what she was doing. Very much like Wanda in Multiverse of Madness. So if you like characters like that, this was maybe one that you should consider picking up. And the last book I read last month is The Atlas 6. I had heard about this book on TikTok like over a year ago, and I have been waiting to read it since then. I really loved the concept of it, and I think the execution could have been better. I rated this one really highly, and I'm starting to think I want to take my rating down a little bit because I think it didn't give me the things that I was promised. That being said, there were some really amazing things about this book. I really loved the characters. I loved how different all the characters were, and I loved that pretty much everyone in this book is very morally gray and just out for their own good. Secrets, lots of kind of mystery around everyone's reasons for doing what they're doing. Basically, the Library of Alexandria never burned down in this reality, and magic exists in the world, and every 10 years, the Alexandrian Society picks 6 people to be initiated into the library's work people. But what they don't know is that one of them will have to die by the end of the year. I think what I liked most about this book was the characters, and that's probably good because other than that, there really wasn't too much happening. I really wanted there to be more plot in this book, and I really wanted to learn more about the library, and I feel like it took place over such a large amount of time, and it was just never really well explained that time had passed. So, you know, weeks had gone by and I'm like, is this the next day? It never really felt like time had passed, and I wanted more of that kind of character growth over that year of them being there. And it really felt like they were kind of the same people in the beginning as they were in the end. There is a twist in this book that I kind of saw coming, but it was still pretty satisfying for me as a reader to get through. And I love the artwork that is within this book. I definitely think it was still worth the read, but I definitely think I wanted more from this, and I would recommend it to people who love dark academia books that are character-based. However, if you're looking for something really plot-based, exciting, with fun characters, this maybe isn't the best one because I felt like it dragged a lot, but other people may think differently. But it was still a great read, and I'm really, really glad that I read it. So there we are. Those are all the books that I read this past month in June. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.